In this video, I'm finally taking the leap into my very first fully custom board. The mechanical keyboard hobby is starting to get a bit of mainstream appeal, especially in the last year or so. I set out to make this build as hassle-free and as beginner-friendly as possible for anyone just starting out in the hobby. But at the same time, I still want to make sure that it would result in a premium typing experience. The case I chose is the KBD Fans Tofu60 Walnut case. The Tofu60 is a popular case for beginners for its quality and reasonable price. While most cases in the series come in aluminum, this particular version comes in walnut wood. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I have a thing for natural materials and the black on walnut aesthetic that fit my overall desk setup. The unique thing about this case is that it has a built-in O-ring mounting system. And in its assembly, you have to put the provided foam O-rings between each of the standoffs before screwing them in from the back of the case. This gives the PCB a little more flex because it is sandwiched between the soft foam O-rings. It's supposed to improve the typing feel as well as the sound of the keyboard. I've also purchased foam from KBD Fans that goes between the case and the PCB. This fills in the empty space in the case and dampens the sound, as wood cases do tend to have more of a hollow, resonant sound. My switches of choice are the Gateron Oil Kings, and I chose this for two main reasons. I already have a modified AND Pro tool with Zelios V2s, which are tactile switches with a very noticeable tactile bump to them, and I really wanted to try linear switches. The Gateron Oil Kings come factory lubed, and they are known to be very smooth and perfectly usable stock, without any extra lubing needed. This saved me hours from having to take switches apart to lube them individually. For beginners especially, this will be a very big time saver. I am using the Durock V2 screw-on stabilizers. These will require lubing. I've put a link down below to a really helpful stabilizer modding guide by Teha Types, but basically, I put a thin layer of Krytox on the insides and put a thick coat over the wire as well before assembling it. After that, I clip them onto the PCB. The Durock V2s are screw-on, so you have to turn the PCB to the back side to screw them on. Do this for all 5 of the stabilizer positions. I add on another layer of pre-cut foam from KBD Fans before putting on the aluminum plate. At this point, it's a good idea to test your stabilizers by putting in the switches and the keycaps. Give it a few key presses to make sure it's smooth and that it doesn't require more lube. After that, I put in the switches, making sure that the pins peek through at the back of the PCB. The PCB is the NZXT RGB. This is where I made a mistake. I actually thought I bought the hot swap version, but this is the version that requires soldering. Soldering can be a big barrier to entry for beginners because it takes extra equipment and it can be quite daunting. But it's actually quite a rewarding skill to learn, so I'll leave a link down below to a good soldering guide. For beginners, I would recommend getting the hot swap board where no soldering is required. This also makes it much more convenient for you to swap out switches without having to desolder in order to try out different ones when you're just starting out in the hobby. Before assembling the PCB onto the case, I apply what is referred to as a tempers tape mod by applying a layer of painter's tape onto the back and cutting out the sections with the screw holes. You can also use masking tape for this, but just make sure to use tape that won't leave a residue on your PCB. This mod is supposed to give the keyboard a deeper and thockier sound. For keycaps, I've chosen to go for the classic GMK white on blacks. You just can't go wrong with the classic white on black. It fits the black on walnut aesthetic that I'm going for, and GMKs are the quintessential premium keycaps amongst hobbyists for their quality. The legends are made from a double shot process by fusing 2 layers of plastic with an injection mold. This means the legends are made of a second layer of plastic, which make them resistant to wear. As a final step, I stick on the rubber feet that came with the case. With the keyboard fully assembled, here is the sound test. I'm really happy with the end result. It sounds and types like a dream. The Gateron Oil Kings are buttery smooth, and the keyboard's overall aesthetic blends well with the wood theme of my desk setup. It has a much more refined aesthetic and quality to my previous daily driver, the modified M Pro 2 with its walnut case. If there's one thing I'd like to improve on, it's the spacebar. I think there's still a little bit of rattle there that can be improved with better stabilizer modding. If you'd like to make the same build, I've listed all the parts with links in the description. Do you have your own custom mechanical keyboard? Let me know its specs down below. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.